I have seen several videos about making tumbling block pattern for cutting boards or other various uses of using that particular pattern. But I've never seen very much at all on the actual setup of the saw. So that's going to be the purpose of this video because the ones I've seen, they've been mostly on assembly, and that can be a long boring setup, just assembling the blocks once you got them cut up. So I'm using some scrap wood here, so that's the reason I got so many pieces. It's just as if they were full length, you know. I'm using some scraps, and what I've got here first is four pieces of cherry, and I got 4 pieces of hard maple, and because these two are longer, I got a couple of pieces of black walnut. And I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm going to just do it in stages, and I'll exit out of here now, and I'll get back when I get the saw set up. Oh, before I go, something else I got too. There's a couple of pieces of just cheap pine that I get for next to nothing, and these will be my practice pieces first before I start using my good wood. So, I'll get back to you later here. Okay, I'm back, and I found out why some of the videos that I've watched, they don't go into much detail in setting up for making these blocks. Well, that's probably because it takes a half a dozen tries, at least it did for me. And then when I did get it set up, I made one in the pine, like I mentioned before earlier. I was going to use pine as a trial before I used my good wood. Strangely enough, when I got it set up for pine, I went to my hardwoods and it was out. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're going to use hardwoods, use hardwoods. If you're going to use pine or softwoods, use softwoods. Everything should work out. Now, as far as setting the angles, you know, it takes a lot of trial and error. And what I did was I used my Wixie angle guide, and I zeroed it out on the table saw. Then I put it on the side of the blade and set it for 60 degrees. Now, it can be out 60.1, 59.9, even though it says 60. So what you do is first you cut a piece like this. Well, we'll just do it. We'll cut a piece. And a little lecture after I've cut this piece about why I'm cutting it that way. Yeah, there we go. Now after you cut a piece, you measure the angle, and then you measure the length. If those are not identical, it's going to fit together just terrible. Here's an example right here. There's one where it was out. See that big piece hanging out there? And if there's, try and get focus in you. If there's a gap like that, well then your angle is out too. So what you do is just keep adjusting your saw blade angle just a hair, and also the fence back and forth just a hair, till you get that magic balance between. When you've got absolutely equal distance here and here, your segments are going to fit together like that. Well, I guess they're not segments or pieces. Well, I guess we could call them segments. But anyways, that's the way they're going to fit together. That's the way they should fit together. Now the lecture. You saw me pushing that through. If you do not have a riving knife on your saw, do not push it through like I did. Okay? You can, if they drop off here, you can actually pull them this way. I've done it that way. But with the riving knife, I find it easier to just slide it through like that. Because with the riving knife, as a block like that, as the block like that goes through, just moving it with a pencil, you notice the teeth, the riving knife is back of the teeth, so there's no way that can kick up and throw at me like a projectile, and could be very dangerous. In any event, always stand to one side. I'm standing to one side when I'm doing this. There's left-hand tilt saws, there's right-hand tilt saws. Mine is only left-hand tilt, and there's probably a dozen different ways of doing this. This is the way that works for me, and I'm confident with my use of the table saw the way I'm doing it. If you're not the least bit confident, just don't do it. Okay, that's my lecture. Do it the way that suits you best. Now we'll just do that was a piece of walnut. Well, we'll do a maple. Okay, if your saw blade is sharp, good and sharp, that was just a cheap Canadian Tire blade, but it's fairly new, and it cuts pretty good without fuzzies. So if you got a blade that's not very sharp, well, it's best to use a bit of sandpaper and get rid of the fuzzies. Uh-oh, what did I do? I was talking and I cut two maples. I cut two walnuts and one maple. I need a cherry. Okay, we shall do a cherry. That's what happens when you get talking. Okay, where did I put those guys now? Oh my gosh. There they are. Okay, we'll do a cherry. It is cherry. Yep. Probably noticed that one came back at me, and I'm using a pencil with rubber on the end for pushing those through. That one came back at me, but because the blade is going down, there's no way it's going to kick up like if it was at the back with a riving knife, it would kick at me. With it going down, it just kind of floats around there, and I just pull it out with the rubber. Anyways, now we don't need that walnut, but we need a cherry. So, something else I wanted to explain. This is one that three pieces I cut just before, showing those threads. I got my, where am I here? Got my grain running this way on the walnut. Got it running that way on the maple, and this way on the cherry. That's giving me height and width to my effect, and got to be careful to do every one of those the same way when you're gluing up the blocks. If that sounds easy, you're going to find out that it's tricky, and it's not. You can make mistakes so quick. Anyways, I'm going to do this one up the same way. I've got the grain running that way, and whoops. Now, see, that's wrong, so I've got to turn that over, get the grain running that way. Okay, and this one is wrong. Turn it over there. I got the grain that way, this way, and that way, all the way around. And we can put an elastic band on that. And that's hard to do, just hard to do just in your hand there, but those will all fit together perfectly right off the saw. Now, what I did just before doing all this, I did a few pieces and I put them together just with an elastic band. This is just right off the saw with an elastic band around it, and nothing's glued yet, so I'll be gluing all these together. You notice I got my grain orientation like that. This is really, I know it looks like it's all bumps, but it's flat. It's just as flat as this. Here's the magic part. If I turn that, whoops, it looks like that. Let me sit this down and zoom in maybe. Okay, let's get this adjusted a little bit. Okay, now, well, I had it before. It gives that illusion of the bumps that way. Turn it sideways. It's a totally different pattern. Turn it opposite. You got the whites at the top instead of the browns at the top, and you can turn that various different ways, and it's going to show a different pattern. So that's kind of interesting. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cut some more, and then I'll do the tedious job of gluing them all together, and get back later on and we'll see what it looks like. So, thanks for looking so far. Well, I've had people ask me why I don't include myself in my videos, mostly because I'm quite tall and I have a very tiny shop and I can't get the camera far enough away to include me as well as what I'm doing. Anyways, this time I'm sitting down, so here I am. Just to cap this video off, as I said earlier, it wasn't to show how to assemble and glue up the blocks. There's a couple of videos online about that, but the ones that I viewed didn't show very much about the actual cutting of the pieces. So once you get to the point where you can get those little pieces cut so they fit together just exactly like that, there's just a very little bit of sanding on the edges, and after that it just goes quite easily. So this first one I made, I'll call it my prototype. It was actually a cutting board, just a flat cutting board. I cut. I made, let's see, it must be 3 years ago maybe, and it didn't turn out as expected. I had areas where I had to put fill in, and I just wasn't happy. I threw it up on the shelf, and I put it down to experience. And then I pulled it out here last week, and I cut a round circle out of the cutting board. Then I used my ringmaster and I cut rings on an angle, and I stacked them up and glued them together. And I found out that the ringmaster does not lend itself well to that type of thing, because it doesn't as you stack the rings and cut them that way, it kind of jumbles up the pattern on the sides. So the second one that I just finished doing here, I used the conventional way of the first, second, and third ring above the base. I cut the segments out the conventional way in separate rings and glued them together on the lathe and turned it, and it turned out much nicer, I think. I also got all my joints nice and tight on this one, so I don't have a problem with this one. This one here I'll probably give away to one of my sons that's going to be visiting one day, and from Alberta. And this one, well, it's going to be a keeper, I think, because I'm pretty proud of this one. It actually turned out better than my expectations. So any of you guys that want to try this, guys or gals, go ahead and try it. People have been asking me on my woodworking friend site, why don't you do up a video of how you cut them, because not many people show how you cut the pieces. Well, because like I said in the earlier part of this video, it'll look dangerous to some people. It's not dangerous to me. So just choose your own methods, and please no emails and all kinds of complaints about the way I cut it. It's the way I do it, and it works for me. So I hope you all got a few tips out of what I did here. Anyways, so thanks for looking.